The storm howled across the icy planet of Varlon 9, a world so cold that even metal screamed when the wind touched it. Snow danced like shards of glass under the faint light of 2 dying suns. Inside a small crash shelter, Ethan Ward, a human explorer from Earth, struggled to stay alive. His ship had gone down 12 hours ago. His oxygen generator flickered, the heater sputtered, and his body shivered inside the thin survival suit. He had no signal, no warmth, no hope. Ethan sat near the tiny heater, staring at the frost forming on the walls. His breath came out in slow white clouds. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "No rescue. No one's coming." Then, a faint sound. Like footsteps on frozen snow, Ethan turned. His hand moved to the blaster at his belt. The sound grew louder, closer, until a shadow appeared just beyond the door. He aimed. "Who's there?" The door opened halfway and a wave of cold air rushed in. Standing there was a woman, no, not fully human. Her skin shimmered faintly, like blue ice under moonlight. Long silver hair framed her face and her eyes glowed softly like melted stars. Her body trembled. Frost clung to her lashes. She looked weak. "Dying. Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. I'm freezing." Ethan lowered his weapon slightly. She stumbled inside, barely standing. He caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was cold, too cold, like touching death. "Who are you?" he asked, wrapping her in a thermal blanket. She looked at him, eyes full of pain. "My name is Lyra. My ship being destroyed, my crew, all gone." Her voice cracked. "You're human?" "Yeah," Ethan said, forcing a small smile. "The last one you'll meet on this frozen rock." Lyra tried to smile back, but her lips turned pale. Her body trembled uncontrollably. The temperature was dropping fast, below -60. Even Ethan's heater couldn't save them both for long. He gave her the last heat pack. She pushed it away weakly. "You need it more." He shook his head. "You won't survive 10 minutes without it." "Don't argue." For a moment their eyes met, her glowing blue ones and his tired brown ones. Something passed between them, something that didn't need words. 2 souls trapped in the same dying world. Ethan placed her near the heater, adjusting her blanket. But it wasn't working. Her species' body temperature was much lower than humans, and when it dropped too far, it meant death. Her voice came again, weak and trembling. "There is one way," she said softly. He frowned. "What way?" Her eyes flickered. "My kind. We share heat. Not like your machines. We connect. Our energy flows through touch." Ethan blinked, confused. "You mean like holding hands?" Lyra hesitated, then whispered, "Closer, much closer." Ethan's breath caught. The wind outside screamed louder, as if warning him. He looked at her again, her eyes begging not for desire but for life. I don't understand," he said quietly. She took his trembling hand and placed it over her heart. It was beating slowly, almost stopping. "Please, help me," she whispered. "I'll be yours forever. Just save me." The heater flickered again and the shadows danced on the metal walls. Ethan could feel her life slipping away. He had a choice: watch her die, or trust a being he'd never met before. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then with a deep breath he nodded. "Tell me what to do." Lyra's eyes softened. "Just stay close. Don't let go. Let your warmth become mine." He pulled her closer, their bodies trembling from cold. The contact sent a strange current through him, like fire and ice mixed together. Her breath quickened. Her skin glowed faintly under his touch, and slowly, the shaking stopped. Her heart began to beat stronger. The glow spread through her body like veins of light. Ethan could feel her energy mixing with his, a strange connection forming between them. When she finally opened her eyes again, they were brighter than before. Alive. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved me." Ethan smiled weakly. "You're welcome." But before he could say more, the shelter shook violently. The storm outside roared and the ground trembled beneath them. A distant sound, something mechanical, massive, echoed through the frozen valley. Lyra's face turned pale. "They found me," she whispered. "Who?" Ethan asked. She looked at him, her voice low and trembling. "The hunters. They're not here to rescue me. They're here to finish what they started." Outside, glowing red lights appeared through the snow, 3 figures walking slowly toward the shelter. Ethan reached for his blaster, jaw tightening. Then they'll have to go through me first. Lyra looked at him, her expression a mix of fear and something else. Hope. Human, she said softly. You don't understand what you've done. You just bonded with me. You're part of me now. Ethan froze. What do you mean, bonded? Lyra's eyes glowed brighter and her lips curved into a sad smile. You saved my life. And in my world. That means I belong to you. Forever. The wind screamed outside. The red lights drew closer. And inside that tiny shelter, a new bond had just been born. The shelter walls shook again. Outside, the red lights grew brighter, cutting through the endless snowstorm like burning eyes. Ethan peered through a narrow crack in the door. He counted 3 figures, tall, armored, and moving in perfect formation. Their glowing visors scanned the ground, leaving trails of red light on the ice. Who are they? Ethan whispered. Lyra's face turned pale blue. Her voice trembled. They're Sith trackers, machines built to hunt my kind. Once they lock on a biosignature, they never stop. Ethan checked his weapon, half-charged. Can they sense heat? Yes, she said quietly. And heartbeat. Ethan cursed under his breath. Then we can't stay here. Lyra reached out, grabbing his arm. No, human. They will detect movement. If we go outside, we'll die faster. The storm howled, shaking the small metal cabin again. Inside, the heater hummed weakly, casting a soft orange glow across their faces. Ethan could see fear in her eyes, but also something else. Determination. He crouched near the broken window slit and whispered, We need a plan. Fast. Lyra closed her eyes, breathing slowly. There is one way. The trackers use plasma cores to power their suits. If we overload them, they explode. Explode? Ethan asked, blinking. How big? Big enough, she said. But you'd have to get close. Ethan gave a short laugh. Close is my middle name. Lyra looked at him, confused but somehow warmed by his confidence. Humans were strange, she thought. They joked even when facing death. The red light stopped outside the door. Silence followed. A silence so deep that even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then a metallic voice echoed through the storm. Target acquired. Biological signatures confirmed. 1 human. 1 hybrid. Ethan's grip tightened on his blaster. Lyra's hands began to glow faintly, icy light flowing between her fingers. I'll draw their sensors, she said. You go behind— No, Ethan interrupted firmly. You stay here. You're weak and I started this mess when I saved you. I'll finish it. Lyra shook her head. You don't understand. If you fight them, they will mark you as enemy of the Scythe Empire. You'll never be safe. Ethan's lips curled into a half smile. I wasn't safe the moment I crashed here. The door burst open. Snow and metal shards flew in. The first tracker stepped in, tall as the ceiling, its armor black with glowing red veins. Hostile detected, it said in a flat mechanical tone. Ethan fired first. Blue plasma hit the armor's chest. Sparks exploded, but the tracker barely flinched. It turned its head slowly, focusing on him. The second one aimed a weapon, a rotating cannon of light. Lyra raised her hand and shouted a word in her language. The ground under the tracker's feet froze instantly, turning it into solid crystal. Now, she yelled. Ethan fired again, this time at the glowing joint on its back. The shot hit perfectly. A blinding flash followed, then a boom that shook the ground. The second tracker fell, pieces of molten metal flying across the snow. Ethan ducked, coughing. Nice trick. Lyra's glow dimmed. Using that much energy drained her quickly. 2 more, she whispered, falling to her knees. Ethan rushed to her side. Stay with me, Lyra. The last tracker smashed through the wall, knocking Ethan back. His blaster flew out of reach. The machine grabbed him by the throat and lifted him effortlessly. Human specimen detected, it said. Termination authorized. Ethan struggled, gasping for air. Its grip tightened, his vision blurred. Suddenly, a soft blue light wrapped around him, warm and electric. Lyra was on her feet again, her eyes glowing like stars. You will not touch him, she screamed. A wave of blue energy burst from her hands, hitting the tracker square in the chest. Ice crawled up its armor, freezing its joints. But instead of exploding, the machine reached for her with its other arm. Ethan, half conscious, saw a red light blinking on its chest. The plasma core. With a last burst of strength, he pulled a small energy cell from his belt and hurled it straight at the core. A flash, a deafening roar, then silence. When the smoke cleared, Ethan lay half buried in snow, ears ringing. The wreckage of the trackers burned in the distance, red light fading to black. Lyra crawled toward him, weak but alive. She touched his face gently. "You're hurt," she whispered. He opened one eye and smiled faintly. "You should see the other guy." Despite everything, she laughed softly, a fragile sound in the frozen silence. "You risked your life. For me." Ethan's voice was rough. "Guess that's what humans do." Lyra looked down, eyes full of something deeper now. Not just gratitude, but emotion she couldn't explain. "You don't understand, human. When we bond, your warmth doesn't just save my body, it changes my soul." Ethan blinked. "Changes?" She nodded slowly. "You and I are linked now. Your heartbeat echoes inside me. If you die..." She paused, her voice breaking. "I die too." Ethan stared at her, stunned. "That's not possible." Lyra touched her chest. "It already is." Outside, the storm began to fade, and the first light of dawn broke across the ice fields. But on the horizon, far beyond the hills, more red lights appeared, dozens of them moving fast. Lyra's expression hardened. "They're coming. Not hunters this time, soldiers." Ethan took a deep breath, gripping his weapon tighter. "Then we'll fight together." She met his gaze, calm, glowing, almost tender. "Together," she whispered. "Until the end." The wind carried their words into the distance as the two figures, human and alien, stood side by side, facing the frozen horizon where their real war was about to begin. The first light of Varlon's morning spread across the frozen valley. The storm had passed, but silence brought no peace. The horizon burned faintly red, not from dawn, but from the coming army. Ethan stood beside the wreckage of the destroyed trackers, his breath steaming in the cold. His armor was cracked, his hands numb, yet his eyes stayed sharp. Lyra sat nearby, her silver hair glowing faintly under the morning light. Her body was still weak, but she watched him carefully, almost protectively. "More are coming," Ethan said quietly. "We need to move before they reach us." Lyra nodded, trying to stand. Her knees trembled. He quickly stepped forward, catching her before she fell. "You're still not strong enough," he said. "I'm trying," she whispered, frustration in her tone. "The bond. It's strange. My energy flows through you, but your warmth feeds it. It's confusing." Ethan helped her walk toward the broken ridge behind the shelter. The icy cliffs offered some cover. "You said we're linked," he said. "What does that really mean?" Lyra hesitated. Her glowing eyes softened. "In my world we call it Kythera, a life binding. It happens only when one soul gives warmth to another in death's shadow." He frowned. "Sounds poetic." "It's more than poetry," she said. "Your heat entered me. My energy entered you. Our systems connected, body and mind." She placed her hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat. "Now I can feel this. As if it's my own." Ethan blinked. "You can feel my heart?" "Yes," she said softly. "Every beat. Every pain, even your fear." He pulled back slightly. "Then I guess you know I'm scared out of my mind." Lyra smiled faintly. "And yet you stand. That is what makes humans different." They reached a cave hidden by sharp ice pillars. Ethan scanned the area, checking for signals. "No trackers on radar," he said. "We're clear for now." Inside, the cave was deep and dim. Strange glowing crystals grew from the walls, giving off faint warmth. Lyra touched one, sighing. "This place, it feels alive." Ethan dropped his gear and sat. "You still haven't told me why they're hunting you." She looked away, her face shadowed by guilt. "Because I ran," she said. "From my own empire." He raised an eyebrow. "You're a fugitive?" Lyra nodded slowly. "I was a scientist for the Sith Empire. We created the trackers. Machines that kill anything not pure-blood Sith. But when I learned what they planned for the outer colonies, I refused to continue." "What did they plan?" he asked. She hesitated. "Extermination. They want to erase every hybrid species. Any life that isn't perfect by their standard. I tried to stop it. They called me a traitor." Ethan clenched his fists. "And now they're sending killers after you." "Yes," she said. "And anyone who helps me dies." Ethan gave a dry laugh. "Guess I joined the wrong team." She looked at him serious now. You could still leave me. Save yourself, he shook his head. Sorry, Lyra, you said we're bonded. If I leave you, I die too, right? She smiled sadly. That's true. But even if it wasn't, you would stay, wouldn't you? Ethan looked away, pretending to check his weapon. Yeah, I probably would. A long silence followed. Only the wind outside whispered through the ice. Then Lyra spoke again softly. When you touched me in the shelter, you didn't just share warmth. You shared will. Your mind. Your memories. I saw them. Ethan turned sharply. You what? I saw Earth, she said, eyes glowing faintly. The blue oceans. The trees. The sun. It was beautiful. So full of life. I didn't know such worlds existed. He stared at her, stunned. You can see my memories? Not all, she said quickly. Only pieces. The ones tied to emotion, fear, hope, love. He frowned. Love? Her voice lowered. I saw someone. A woman? With dark hair. You held her hand before your mission. Ethan's jaw tightened. That was my fiancée. She died before I left Earth. Lyra's expression softened. I'm sorry. He shrugged weakly. It's in the past. No, she whispered. It's still inside you. I felt the pain. The guilt. You think it was your fault. Ethan looked down, silent for a moment. I was supposed to protect her. But I wasn't there. The attack happened before I came back. Lyra moved closer, her eyes gentle. You blame yourself for everything. Even saving me. He met her gaze. Maybe that's what humans do. Lyra hesitated, then placed her glowing hand on his cheek. The warmth between them pulsed stronger this time, like a heartbeat shared by two souls. He could feel her emotions, sorrow, fear, but also something new. Connection. You don't have to carry pain alone anymore, she whispered. Half of it is mine now. Ethan's throat tightened. And half of yours is mine. Yes, she said. That's how the bond works. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt heavy, charged with something deeper than survival. Then a faint sound echoed from outside, a mechanical hum, low but growing. Ethan stood instantly. They found us again. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. No, not just them. I sensed something else, stronger, older. The ground trembled slightly. Small rocks fell from the cave ceiling. Ethan grabbed his weapon, scanning the entrance. What now? He muttered. Lyra's expression darkened. The Empire has sent a Reaper-class unit. A hunter that doesn't stop. It won't leave until one of us is dead. Ethan sighed, loading a new power cell. Then I guess we make sure it's not us. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling but sure. If we fight as one. Your fire, my frost, together. Ethan nodded, bound by heat and blood. Their eyes met. Human warmth against alien light. And for a second the cold world around them didn't matter. Outside, the sound grew louder. The Reaper had arrived. And deep inside that frozen cave, two hearts beat as one for the first time. The wind outside the cave began to scream again. But this time, it wasn't a storm. It was the hum of something alive, something powerful. Ethan crouched near the entrance, his blaster ready. The ground beneath him trembled like a beating heart. A deep metallic roar echoed through the valley, followed by heavy footsteps that shook the ice itself. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly blue in the dark. It's here, she whispered. The Reaper. A tall shadow appeared through the snowstorm, a machine towering almost 4 meters high. Its armor was black like obsidian, and on its chest burned a red symbol shaped like a fang. Each step left a crater of melted ice. Ethan swallowed hard. You've got to be kidding me. Lyra shook her head slowly. It hunts by soul signature. It can feel us through the bond. Ethan frowned. So the thing knows exactly where we are? Yes, she said softly. And it will not stop. The Reaper raised its arm, a massive cannon glowing with red energy. The cave entrance exploded in a flash of light and heat. Rocks rained down as Ethan pulled Lyra behind a large crystal pillar. Move, he shouted. Deeper in. They ran through the narrow tunnels, crystals lighting their way with cold light. The sound of metal claws scraping stone echoed behind them. Slow, steady, unhurried. It's tracking our energy, Lyra said, breathing fast. If we don't break the bond trail, it will follow forever. Ethan looked back. How do we break it? She bit her lip. By lowering our heart rate to nothing. He turned, confused. Nothing? Her eyes flickered. We would have to stop for a short time. Freeze our life energy completely. But if we stay like that too long, we die, Ethan finished for her. Lyra nodded. Exactly. The tunnel ended in a large cavern. In the center stood a pool of glowing blue ice, ancient pure energy. Lyra pointed. This will hide our heat for a moment. Ethan looked at the freezing mist rising from it. That thing looks like death. It is, she said. But so is what's behind us. The metallic roar came again, louder, closer. Crystals cracked under its approach. Ethan grinned faintly. Ladies first. Lyra gave a weak smile, then stepped into the icy pool. She gasped as frost climbed her skin. Ethan followed, and pain shot through his body like knives of cold. Now, she whispered, touching his face. Slow your breath. Think of nothing. Let your heartbeat fade. Their foreheads touched. Her glow dimmed. His pulse slowed. The blue ice wrapped around them both like a cocoon. The Reaper entered the cavern moments later. Its red eyes scanned the room, light beams crossing every corner. The machine paused, silent. No heat, no sound, no movement. It waited. Inside the frozen pool, Ethan could feel his consciousness slipping away. Everything turned quiet, distant. He wanted to move, but Lyra's voice echoed faintly in his mind. Stay calm. I'm with you. Minutes passed. The Reaper's sensors flickered uncertainly, then turned toward the exit. It emitted a low growl and began to move away. When the sound finally vanished, Lyra's eyes opened weakly. Now, she whispered, wake up. Ethan gasped, air rushing back into his lungs. The ice around them cracked and shattered. Both of them fell out, coughing and shivering. Violently. Remind me, Ethan said through chattering teeth, never to do that again. Lyra smiled faintly. You did well. You stayed alive. He looked at her, still shaking. Yeah, barely. That thing's not gone for good, is it? She shook her head. No, it will circle back. It learns. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we need to kill it before it kills us. Lyra hesitated. You can't destroy a Reaper with human weapons. Then we use yours, he said quickly. You froze a whole machine before. Can you do that again? Not alone, she admitted. It needs focus from both our energies combined. Your heat, my frost. He thought for a moment. Then we fight as one. Lyra stared at him, surprised by his calm tone. You would risk your life again for me? Ethan smirked. Guess we're already stuck together. She blinked and then smiled softly. You are strange human, and you're welcome, he replied. They moved toward the cave mouth again. Lyra lifted her hands, gathering pale light between her fingers. Ethan charged his weapon. Outside, the Reaper's heavy steps returned. Echoing like thunder across the ice, Ethan whispered, Let's end this. The Reaper emerged through the storm again, its cannon glowing. Sensors locked on them. Target reacquired, it growled. Ethan fired first. Blue plasma hit its armor. Sparks flew but did no damage. The machine turned, aiming straight at him. Lyra shouted, Now, Ethan, focus your warmth. He closed his eyes, thinking of fire, of life, of everything human inside him. His chest burned as the bond between them pulsed brighter. Lyra's light answered, her frost swirling around his heat like a storm of flame and snow. Together they unleashed it. A massive wave of blue-white energy burst outward, slamming into the Reaper. Ice and fire collided, wrapping the machine in a storm so bright it turned the night into day. When the light faded, the Reaper stood frozen solid, a statue of metal and frost. Then with a deep cracking sound it shattered into pieces. Ethan dropped to one knee, exhausted. Lyra knelt beside him, breathing hard. It's over, he said softly. For now, she whispered. But the Empire will know. When a Reaper dies, its core sends a signal back. Ethan looked at her. So more are coming. Yes, she said sadly. And next time, it won't just be machines. It will be them. He stared out into the white horizon, the wind brushing his face. Then we'd better get ready. Lyra looked at him quietly, then placed her hand on his. Ethan, you don't have to fight my war. He squeezed her fingers gently. Too late for that. Your war's my war now. She smiled, her eyes glowing softly. Then maybe together we can win. The camera of fate pulled back, showing two figures standing in the blinding snow, their energies mingling like living fire and ice. The Reaper was gone, but the real battle, the one that would decide the fate of both species, was just beginning. Snow fell quietly over the shattered remains of the Reaper. The frozen machine lay broken in pieces, its glowing red core dimming like a dying star. But inside that core, a pulse of crimson light blinked 3 times, then vanished into the sky faster than thought. Lyra watched the light streak upward. Her face grew pale. "The signal is sent," she whispered. Ethan followed her gaze. "What happens now?" "They'll come," she said softly. "The Empire will know I survived, and that I'm with a human." Ethan frowned. "So they'll send more of those things?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, this time they'll send ships." Ethan's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the energy currents around them. "Hours. Maybe less." The wind howled again. Ethan kicked a chunk of metal aside, frustration flashing in his eyes. "Great, first trackers, then a giant death robot. What's next, an entire army?" Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she reached for the Reaper's remains and touched the glowing fragments of its core. Blue light spread from her fingers. "We can use this." Ethan looked confused. "Use it? It tried to kill us." "Yes," she said. "But the Reaper's heart is a power cell, one of the strongest in the galaxy. If I can reroute it, it will give us enough energy to reach my hidden base." "Hidden base?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You had one of those this whole time?" "I didn't think I'd survive to reach it," she admitted quietly. "It's far north, buried under the ice. But it's safe, for now." Ethan crouched beside her, watching her work. The blue light in her palms mixed with the red of the core, creating a strange violet glow. "Can you fix it?" "I can try," she whispered. "But it will need both our energies again," he sighed. "Figures. Nothing works unless I hold your hand." She looked up, smiling softly despite the fear in her eyes. "Maybe that's the universe's way of reminding us we're better together." Ethan grinned. "I'll take that." They joined hands over the Reaper's core. The energy pulsed between them, glowing brighter, until the entire cave shimmered with violet light. Lyra focused, her voice calm, but strained. "Steady. Let your warmth flow slowly. Not too fast." "I'm trying," Ethan said through gritted teeth. "Feels like my arm's on fire." "That's good," she whispered. "Fire means life." The crystal heart flickered once, twice, then stabilized, humming softly. Lyra fell back, breathing hard. "It's done. We have power." Ethan helped her up. "Then let's move before the Empire drops by." They stepped outside the cave. The horizon was no longer empty. Dark shapes were forming in the clouds above like shadows of enormous wings. The first ships were entering the planet's atmosphere. Lyra looked up, sadness in her eyes. "They're faster than I hoped." Ethan tightened his gloves. "Then we move faster." They began their long trek across the ice. The storm had cleared, but the cold cut like knives. Each step crunched over ancient frost. After an hour of walking, Ethan spoke again. "You said your base is under the ice. How do we get in?" Lyra stopped and pointed toward a glowing fissure in the distance. "There, beneath the crystal valley. It's protected by a cloaking field. Only my signature can open it." Ethan nodded, but his breath came heavy. "You good?" She looked at him gently. "You're the one shivering now." He gave a tired smile. "Humans aren't built for walking on frozen planets." "Then lean on me," she said softly. He hesitated. "You sure?" She smiled faintly. "We share one heartbeat now, remember?" He chuckled, leaning slightly against her as they walked. For a few moments, silence fell between them, peaceful, fragile. Lyra looked at him quietly. "You risked everything for me, Ethan. You could have left." "Yeah," he said simply. "But I didn't." "Why?" she asked softly. He thought for a moment, then replied, "Because you looked at me like I wasn't just some human lost in space. You looked at me like I mattered." Lyra stopped walking. Her glowing eyes met his. "You do matter. To me." The air between them grew warm despite the freezing wind. But before either could speak again, a thunderous boom shattered the sky. They looked up and froze. 3 massive warships broke through the clouds, black as night, surrounded by a swarm of drones. The Empire had arrived. Lyra's face turned grim. "Too late. They've found us." Ethan gripped his weapon. "Then we make a stand." "No," Lyra said sharply. "Not yet. The base is close. We can use the Reaper core to power the gate, if we make it there alive." Ethan looked at the incoming drones, their red lights flashing like a storm of angry eyes. Alive sounds good. Lead the way. They ran across the icy plain, the wind slicing against their faces. The sound of engines grew louder behind them. Plasma fire streaked across the sky, exploding in blue flames. Ethan dove behind a ridge as blasts hit the ground near them. They're not messing around. Lyra's hand glowed as she raised a shimmering wall of frost. Energy bolts hit it, scattering into mist. Just a little farther. They reached the glowing fissure. Lyra slammed her hand onto the ice, and ancient symbols flared to life. A circular portal of light opened, revealing a tunnel descending into darkness. Go, she shouted. Ethan jumped in first, landing hard but safe. Lyra followed just as another explosion ripped through the ridge above. The portal closed, cutting off the sound of war. Inside, the tunnel glowed softly with blue light. Ethan looked around, catching his breath. You weren't kidding. This place is real. Lyra nodded. Welcome to my last hope. As they moved deeper, strange machines lined the walls, half organic, half metal, humming with life. Ethan touched one curiously. What is this stuff? Lyra hesitated. Old tech. From before the Empire. My people once used it to heal worlds. He looked at her. And now? Now, she said quietly. We use it to survive. They stopped before a large door covered in frost. Lyra placed her hand on it and it opened with a hiss of cold air. Inside was a chamber glowing with pale light and a large console in the center. This, she said, is where we make our stand. Ethan stepped forward, looking at the glowing screens. What's the plan? Lyra turned to him, her eyes fierce and determined. We fight back. The Reaper's core can be turned into a pulse, strong enough to blind the fleet for a few minutes. That's all the time we need. He nodded. Let's do it, Lyra smiled slightly. You really are human to the core. Brave, foolish, and full of fire. Yeah, he said. Guess you're stuck with me. She looked at him for a long second and then said softly, Then let's burn together. Outside, thunder rolled as the first wave of the Empire's army descended. Inside, fire and frost began to merge again, ready for war. The chamber hummed with power. The Reaper's core floated above the console, glowing like a small sun. Blue energy from Lyra's hands and orange light from Ethan's armor flowed into it, mixing into a storm of color. Outside, the sky burned. The Empire's ships had descended on black, sharp, and endless. Their lights cut through the storm, searching the frozen valleys. Drones screamed through the air like hunting birds. Deep under the ice, Ethan and Lyra worked in silence. Only the pulsing sound of the Reaper's heart filled the air. Lyra's voice was calm but heavy. When the pulse fires, it will blind their sensors for 3 minutes. That's all we'll have before they recover. Ethan nodded. 3 minutes. Enough to make it count. She looked at him. If we fail, they'll burn this planet, everything. Even this base. Then we don't fail, he said simply. Lyra stared at him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. You speak like someone who believes he can stop the universe. Maybe I just believe in you, he said softly. She turned away, hiding her blush. You shouldn't, I'm not human. I've caused enough death already. Ethan stepped closer. Then stop running from it. Make it mean something. Their eyes met. For a second, the war outside faded away. Just 2 souls standing against the galaxy. Then the alarm blared. They found us, Lyra said sharply. The ceiling shook. The ground trembled as bombs exploded above the surface. The Empire had locked onto their location. Ethan grabbed his rifle. How close? Too close, she answered. They're breaking through the outer tunnels. Ethan ran toward the corridor. I'll hold them off. Lyra caught his arm. You can't stop an army alone? He smiled. I won't have to. You'll make that pulse ready while I buy us time. Lyra's voice broke slightly. Ethan, if you die, I die too. Remember? He looked back with a smirk. Then make sure we both live. Before she could reply, he sprinted down the tunnel. The icy corridor glowed red from emergency lights. Ethan took cover behind a wall as the first explosion tore through the entrance. Imperial soldiers in black armor poured in, their visors red, their movements perfect. Ethan aimed and fired. Blue plasma bolts hit the first wave, sending them crashing into the ice. He rolled aside as return fire scorched the walls. Come on, he yelled. You want me? Earn it, his blaster overheated. He ducked behind cover, panting. He could feel Lyra's heartbeat through the bond. Fast, frightened, alive. Then her voice echoed faintly in his mind. "Hold on, Ethan, the pulse is almost ready." He grinned. "No rush," he muttered, reloading. The next wave came. Ethan fought like a man possessed, moving fast, firing sharp, never giving up an inch. Every breath burned in his chest, every shot echoed through the tunnels. A grenade landed near him. He dove aside as it exploded, heat and light flashing across his vision. He coughed, vision blurry, but he didn't stop. "Still standing," he muttered. Meanwhile, in the chamber, Lyra's hands glowed brighter than ever. The Reaper's core pulsed violently as she poured her remaining energy into it. Sweat and frost covered her face. The machines around her hummed like a living storm. "Just a little more," she whispered. "Hold on, human, please." Ethan staggered to his feet, blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. His armor was cracked, but his eyes were alive with fire. He saw them. A final wave, 20 soldiers advancing slowly. He tightened his grip on the blaster. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's end this my way." He raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a voice echoed through the corridor. Deep, mechanical, cruel, human. "Surrender." Ethan froze. From the shadows stepped a massive figure, taller than any soldier, covered in black armor. Its eyes burned crimson. Lyra's voice came in his mind, trembling. "Ethan." "It's a High Warden." One of their generals. Ethan steadied himself. "Nice to meet you." The Warden raised a massive energy blade. "You are connected to the traitor Lyra of Varlon. End your life and we will make your death painless." Ethan grinned weakly. "Sorry, I'm not good at following orders." The Warden roared and charged. Ethan dodged, firing at its chest, but the armor deflected every shot. The blade swung again, cutting deep into the wall beside him. The impact threw him to the ground. Lyra screamed inside his mind, "Ethan, get back," he coughed, crawling to his feet. "Not yet. I'm not done." The Warden raised the blade for the final strike, and then the world exploded in blue light. The pulse fired. A massive wave of energy blasted through the tunnels, freezing everything in its path. The Warden staggered, armor glowing red, systems shorting out. The soldiers screamed as their weapons went dead. Lyra stood in the chamber, her body glowing like living fire and ice. The Reaper's core floated behind her, shining brighter than the sun. Ethan saw her through the light, radiant, fierce, alive. The pulse storm tore through the Empire's fleet above. Ships flickered and vanished into static. Drones fell from the sky. The signal chains shattered. When the light faded, silence fell. Ethan stood weakly, surrounded by frozen enemies. His body trembled, but he was still breathing. Lyra ran into the corridor, eyes wide. "Ethan!" He smiled faintly. "Hey, told you I'd buy you time." She caught him before he fell, her arms wrapping around him. "You're insane," he chuckled weakly. "Yeah, but it worked." Her eyes glowed softly as she touched his face. "You saved us both," he whispered. "You saved me first." Their bond pulsed between them, stronger, brighter, alive. The frost around them melted slightly, turning into shining mist. Lyra pressed her forehead to his. "We did it. They're gone." Ethan smiled tiredly. "Not for long," she nodded. "I know, but this time, we fight on our terms." He looked at her and said quietly, "Together?" "Always," she whispered. The camera pulls back. Two figures standing in a field of shattered ice, glowing with the light of something more than survival. They weren't just fighting for life anymore. They were fighting for each other. Silence returned to the frozen planet. The sky was calm again, painted in shades of pale blue and silver. Where once stood fire and war, now only snow and broken light remained. Ethan sat beside the entrance of the hidden base, watching the horizon. His armor was scorched, his hands bandaged. Every breath still hurt, but he was alive. Lyra walked toward him quietly. Her steps made soft prints in the snow. Her silver hair fluttered in the cold wind, glowing faintly under the pale sun. She sat beside him without a word. For a while neither spoke. The only sound was the slow whisper of wind across the ice. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "They'll come again, won't they?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, the Empire doesn't stop. But the pulse you helped me fire, it spread across their networks. For now, they're blind. They'll think we died here." Ethan smiled faintly. "Good. Gives us time to plan our next bad idea." Lyra turned to look at him. "You would still fight even after everything?" He shrugged. "I'm human." We fight when we should probably run, she smiled gently. Maybe that's why I can't stop looking at you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Is that the bond talking or you? Lyra looked down. Maybe both. There was warmth in her tone now, soft, real, almost human. The bond between them pulsed faintly, steady like two hearts sharing one rhythm. Ethan could feel her emotions like his own. Fear, relief, and something deeper. He looked toward the distant mountains. I used to think warmth meant fire. Or sunlight. But now I think it's you. Lyra blinked, surprised. Me? Yeah, he said. You were freezing that night. But you brought warmth into everything after that. Even here, on this dead world, her eyes shimmered. You don't understand what that means to me. My kind doesn't speak about feelings. We live by logic, by purpose. But you taught me what it means to feel alive. Ethan smiled softly. Guess I'm good at breaking rules. Lyra laughed quietly. It was the first real laugh he'd heard from her, light and beautiful like music under snow. But the moment faded as she looked up at the sky again. The signal I sent through the pulse, it wasn't just an attack, it was also a call. Ethan frowned. A call? She nodded. To others like me. Hybrids hiding in the shadows, slaves, outcasts. I told them, there is hope. That a human stood beside me when no one else would. Ethan's eyes widened. You started a revolution. Lyra looked at him with pride and sorrow. No, we did. A long silence followed. Then Ethan stood looking at the faint aurora glowing across the sky. What now? Lyra joined him, her hand brushing his. We build something new. A place where no one freezes alone. He turned to her. You mean a home? She nodded. If you'll stay. He chuckled softly. You saved my life 3 times, bonded our souls, and dragged me into a galactic war. I think I'm staying. Her lips curved into a shy smile. Then maybe there's hope for both our worlds. She stepped closer, placing her hand on his chest. Do you feel it? He nodded. Yeah, your heartbeat. And yours, she whispered. They moved together now. He looked at her, eyes soft. You said when we bonded you'd belong to me forever. Lyra's voice was quiet. And you belong to me. For a long moment they stood close, the cold wind swirling around them, but neither felt it. Their warmth was enough. Far above, pieces of the Empire's fleet still floated silently, frozen in orbit. Reminders of a war not yet over. But down here something new had begun. 2 lives from different worlds. Bound by heat and frost, had found something worth more than victory. They had found understanding. Lyra looked up at the sky, her eyes reflecting the stars. You know, Ethan, I used to fear the cold. Now I think it brought me to you. He smiled, pulling her gently into his arms. Then maybe freezing wasn't the worst thing that ever happened. They stood together, surrounded by the endless snow, their bodies close, their hearts beating in one steady rhythm. The wind softened, almost peaceful, as if even the planet itself had begun to warm. And somewhere deep within that silence, the universe listened. It didn't hear the sound of war this time. It heard love, hope, life.